What is up, everybody? In this video, we're going to take a look at some of these trades, especially that big one near the end. However, this video is going to be about the importance of Russell in correlations. Recently, I was on the Corbs Speculator podcast. You should go fucking watch it because it's me, baby! And if you're one of my subscribers, you got to support me and go watch it. I mean, it's up to you. It really doesn't matter. Some of you guys are coming from over there. So on that episode, Corbs asked me, why do you use Russell for correlation? He also uses correlations with ES. He uses NASDAQ and Dow Jones. They all move the same. So why not use markets that move the same? Well, for me, I love Russell because it is an outlier. In my correlations part 1 and 2 video, I believe in part 1, I explain how I figured out that I should be using correlations. Like, I finally found out, hey, I need to use correlations, and it was because of a discovery in Russell. And I've been told by other traders, Russell, it doesn't matter because it's not correlated. Well, here's the thing. All these markets are interconnected, and when I see an order flow event, which you're going to see here, it goes through Russell. Russell's pretty cool because it connects and disconnects with ES and NQ at certain times. There'll be times where Russell will rip up, ES and NQ will rip up, and then Russell will dump, and the other two don't dump. They get stuck. And then Russell will move up again, and then they start moving with Russell again. So it's kind of this connect, disconnect type of thing. So we're going to see why Russell's important. I personally like it because it's an outlier. It doesn't move with the other markets, because if you're watching purely correlated markets that pretty much move together like NASDAQ and ES, well, they're going to hit points where they get stuck together. And when they get stuck together, how the fuck are you going to know when they're going to fucking break out? Because they're going to most likely attempt to break out together. However, they can all fail together. And oftentimes, Russell can be giving a sign because it's doing its own thing or it's setting up for this or that, whether or not ES or NQ may or may not break out. So you're going to see here in this example. Also, if you would like to see the full narration of all these trades right here, you can join my coffee membership. There is like 130 fucking hours of narrated episodes just like this one here. We're just taking a snippet at it. We're just taking a look at it. Several hundreds and hundreds of trades. There's daily report card episodes, case study episodes, and honestly, it's the best bang for the buck. And if you're trying to learn what I'm doing, it's just helpful to see case study after case study after case study after case study, because every trade is pretty nuanced in its own way. However, there's a lot of similarities. And, well, repetition is the mother of all skill. And when you start to see my edge just working over and over and over and over and over, and you're consuming that, it eventually starts to beat its way into your head, and then you start to see how it's being done. So, again, best bang for the buck in the trading industry, in my opinion, because you just get more content than you're ever going to fucking watch. So let's go ahead and look at this. All right, guys, so on the left, you have ES. On the right, you have NASDAQ. In some prior videos, I've talked about pressure points. These are the pressure points kind of in the red, or potential stop run areas, hypothetically, just lower time frame support and resistance. And these are 30-second charts, which I talk about on Corb's podcast. So if you're like, why noise? Why noise? Maybe this will help a little bit. But again, this is about Russ. So we can see ES is, well, it's in a range right here. So I'll go ahead and draw it out. So you're seeing a range. You're seeing a bottom tick here. And then right here is sort of a range with a V-flush, which are things I talk about in other videos. So if you want to know what that shit is, you probably should go watch more of my content, because I'm not going to explain shit I've explained before. So we're kind of in these ranges here. there was a stop run right here that NQ blew out. So in my opinion, there's a good chance that we do mean revert, which we are at this point. However, by the time you notice like a range like this, and you notice how it kind of moves across, it's somewhat clean. Like it kind of just goes through it like real clean. There's a good chance once you like notice that price action, it ain't gonna do it again, so it's gonna get hung up or do some weird sketchy shit. So I'm looking at this thing like, you know, they could mid pivot, which is something I've talked about in other videos where it kind of mid pivots the middle of the range right here. So again, NQ on the right, ES on the left, 30-second charts. So at this point, it's really hard to know what they're going to do. The only thing that really looks decent, in my opinion, to trade ES would be this region here, which this region is actually a major support resistance area on a 10-minute, which I'm going to actually pull up. So here is that 10-minute chart. We're kind of looking in this region in the video, so we're right about here. As you can see, the 22nd is here, the 23rd Sunday, which, you know, it only trades for a couple hours before midnight, then the 26th. So hypothetically, we've been in a range for 3 days at this point, including Sunday night, if you really want to include that shit. And really, this area has been kind of held up quite a bit, so there's a good chance that if they stop run this area, it's gonna really go. The thing though is like it's such a major fucking range. Like it's a 3-day range. Are they gonna stop run this area? Are they gonna puke it? Are they gonna sustain the move down? Well, looking at ES and Q, you're really not gonna know because they're kind of doing the same thing at the same time. So how do we know they're gonna potentially go? Because we want to be in the trade before it breaks the fucking range, because once it starts puking, it's a little late. And as you can see, it pukes pretty good right here, and then it rips back in. In fact, when it does break, it goes like a whopping 40 ticks. But by the time you attempt to get in it, because it's breaking out, it's going to come back quite a bit on you, and that could hurt. So how do we know? Russell. That's how we fucking know. That's the point of the video, right? It's Russell. All right, back to where we were in the video. So you can see, I mean, that was after the fact. That was a 10-minute chart after the fact. Now let's go back to this time when we don't really know what's going to fucking happen, right? So there's Russell right there. So Russell is also in a range. However, Russell's doing something fucking interesting. Russell's in a big-ass fucking range. Yada, yada, yada. See, Russell's getting those clean little waves in it. At some point, it's not going to cleanly keep waving all the way across the profile, because the thing about profiles is, well, the price action in profiles is like, a lot of the times it like gets stuck in little areas like this or that or here. And when these profiles are being built, despite the fact that it looks like a perfect curve, the profiles, the price action in the profile is never really built off this perfect wavy shit. There's a lot of times when it gets stuck, again, in little weird areas. This one just happened to do that. So what's happening here is there's a stop run right in this region, which they puke it. But in my opinion, this is sort of a major support resistance area. And I can look at it from the fact that they may stop run this area again right here, which they actually do right in this region. Russell stop runs that area. And for the... let's go ahead and just look at that. That's not exactly the setup we're going to look at, but I just want to show you like correlated fucking order flow events again. So again, here's Russell, and you can see it wicks down real hard and pukes. And I'm looking at, you know, potentially a stop run in this area. Not that I want to trade it, because they don't quite go as far as They don't quite go as far as I would want to see to consider this area a stop run, the dotted line. Like it wicks down where this arrow is, but it's not quite going as far as I would think for it to be a stop run. That's kind of breaching in a little bit, but it's just not, again, not running far enough. It's at this point that it happens. So let's take a look at that. So I was going to show you guys this order flow event, but I did record the Dobbs where you could see all three markets dump at the same time. So let's go ahead and just look at the charts. So again, we're looking at this bar here. This is Russell on the right, ES on the left. And as you can see, when I put my crosshair over it, they dump at exactly the same time. And there's a huge volume spike right there. So Russell isn't correlated to ES. Well, the fucking order flow comes in at the same fucking time, bro. All right. Same time. Fucking order flow event across all three markets at the same time. The order flow is fucking connected, guys. All these markets are fucking connected. It doesn't matter if Russell's small caps and fucking, it's not hypothetically connected to ES and NQ. There's order flow events where they influence each other, and it happens time and time and time again, and I fucking use it. And we're gonna see that. So let's look at NQ. We take our crosshair so it aligns to the perfect time. And as you can see, huge dump in Russell, huge dump in NQ on the left. Again, the order flow hitting at the same time and puking at the same time. Now, again, Russell connects and disconnects with these markets. And knowing when it's connecting with them really is beneficial and can help. So I'm going to put the playback speed to 2 here. So what's going on with Russell? Now I want to talk about this next setup, the big trade at the end of the day that we looked at the P&L. So what's happening here is something interesting. And for those of you who want to understand 30-second price action more, this is a great example. So remember how we were talking about the waves and all that bullshit here? Well, now you can see it's building in a small micro range in this region. Okay. This tells us information that you're simply not going to see on a 3-minute chart. You're not going to see it on a 5-minute chart, a 30-minute chart. And in fact, the higher you go in time frame, the more you're not going to fucking see this. This little range is telling me information. It has a little top tick on the top side. And if I wanted to, I could draw a bell curve on here, and it would be a perfect bell curve. Oh, you don't believe me? Well, I'll fucking show you. All right, guys, so this is the same exact chart. Here's that region with that little range right there. Let's take the bell curve tool and just draw it right here. And I said, holy shit, there's a fucking curve right there. Wow, would you look at that? A perfect fucking bell curve. A small little auction. That's right, the markets are fractal, guys. So it's an auction and a fucking auction and a fucking auction. And understanding that and utilizing it is how we can better time shit and be more accurate and precise. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm somebody who's a very quick, more scalpier guy, especially in a lower VIX environment, because you can time shit so well. However, a lot of the times the market reverses and will just stop run your entry. So at some point, it's like, well, fuck, man. You're just not getting into trades that cleanly go 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 ticks in the ES without the market coming back most of the time and stopping out your entry or retesting you. So might as well pick up what's on the fucking table. Okay, so now we know this is a little auction. This is a bigger auction, but this is a little auction than the bigger auction. Now what's happening here is it's compressing the bottom end of the fucking range. It's outside of value area. See how the bars change colors? Typically, they're supposed to be all blue. I don't know why it looks green in the recording, like a green-blue. It's all blue. So, yeah, anyways, where it goes from gray to blue, that's the value zone low. So it's compressing and trading on the lower end of that value zone, and it's been doing it for quite some time at this point. you know, maybe 15 minutes or so, something in that region. So it's definitely accepting outside. Acceptance means it's the price action is accepting the outer edge of the value zone that I keep marking up here, which actually happens to align with this red bar, which is a stop run area. That's just because, again, the price action is cleanly pivoting there. Otherwise, I wouldn't have drawn that, and that red bar does not signify value area low. So it's a lot of little things, and I put it together to create a narrative. So this little top tick, again, helps. Again, and remember, this is a small bell curve, and it's like they're testing in the extreme edge before it potentially could mean revert. So they test the extreme edge of this micro range, and they're not finding more buyers. So if they're not finding more buyers on the extreme edge and it's dumping through, well, they're going to eventually test what? The other extreme edge right here at some point. And since this is a micro auction and a bigger auction, the bigger auction may actually fucking puke. Welcome to the fractal nature of the markets. Again, Russell, 30-second, guys. So we have this area here, which is pivoted once. It's kind of pivoted twice. It's pivoted maybe 4 times. Not to this line, to the tick. However, since it is compressing and ranging here, it's got the top tick. There's a good chance that if they hit this lower end, Russell may puke. Now, Russell also has something else going on here, and I think none of you have seen what that might be. Oh my God, there's 2 of me, and we're not going to fix this. I'm going to lick my face. So anyways, check out the slip reclaim video, because if what I'm about to say doesn't fucking make sense, you should probably go watch that fucking video. Anyways, coming back, what do we fucking have here, folks? What do we have? For those of you who've watched a shitload of my video, oh my God, is that a giant fucking reclaim? Well, it sure as a fuck shit is. The market went straight the fuck up, and it didn't really turn right here. So, guess what, folks? The markets never just giveth. They giveth and they taketh. And that reclaim slip video will explain what the fuck that is. So now that we know that there is a giant fucking reclaim here, it makes Russell a sweeter deal. Russell, if it pukes this bigger auction area that's been going on since the open, essentially, it could puke and take this reclaim back, because that's what the fucking markets do. They take fucking hard moves back because there's no fucking liquidity. Whatever the fuck COVID did, it broke the liquidity permanently in these fucking markets. And they always take reclaims back pretty violently, or they'll just kind of walk through it. However, reclaims almost always eventually get taken back. There's some exceptions. However, for the most part, they get fucking taken back. I mean, see these hard up and down moves here in the fucking middle of this Russell range? I mean, they take it back and then they finally chop it and fill it in, but they keep taking it back. Well, there's one down here, folks. And when you have a giant range or auction zone like this, it's compressing. And the longer a range goes on, the more compression, the longer it is, the taller it is, the more violent it's going to be when it finally punches out, okay? So if you understand what I'm saying, you're starting to understand how to read price action, which on the Corbs podcast, I said, he asked me if you could have like one advice for new traders, what would it be? Learn how to read this shit like words in a book. And my coffee, if you watch my content, because it's a lot, if you just start combing through that shit and getting addicted to it like drugs, you're going to see it happening over and over and over and over and over and over. And then hopefully, I mean, it's on you. You'll eventually know how to fucking read the price action. All right, so woo, look at it approaching down here. So again, this is on 2x speed. It's starting to punch through this little area, which could be a stop run. For me, a stop run in Russell in this environment is roughly 8 ticks. So they are bottom ticking it. So they briefly, you could see right there, maybe we should zoom in. Because I know somebody on their phone's like, I can't see shit. All right, she's punching through. Now notice this white line, that's where the current, notice how it's starting to pull back in. It's kind of doing a bottom tick. However, there's a good chance it could stop run this because of everything I've been telling you about the compression of a larger auction area. This is why 30-second fucking bars are magical. Because I know some of you are coming from the Chords podcast, and I use what I fucking preach with passion, if you will. So, yeah, so she's kind of fucking dancing here. I don't really remember what it does. Oh, it pukes. So I just hit the little thing and then it took a dump. So, I don't remember what we did there. Oh, we pick up like a tick or some fucking shit like that. So I actually like, you can see the monitor shifts over. Yeah, I pick up a tick on a 4-lot. Oh, which you'll see in the P&L. So, I mean, it goes without me. I'm like, fuck, I missed it. However, ES is starting to approach that heavily red-lined area. Hopefully, we can get a zoom-in approach of it. We sure as a fuck shit will. So, let's kind of fast forward. Let's fast forward in the future here a little bit. So there's Russell puking. Now, the thing is where Russell is currently, I'm like, okay, well, you know, it may not take that reclaim I showed on the left. It just may not take this back because it is hitting this pivot for the first time. And I got in trouble on Friday. We had a good session, but we overtraded like hell. Okay, and if you want to see me review that session, it's literally like 2.5 hours on my coffee where I just review where I fucked up. We did well. Last week was really good, broke some records. Friday, we just kind of were way too aggressive. So this is one of the issues that I don't want to trade a pivot being tested the first time really in either fucking direction. So it looks like they're stop running this prior pivot where they're going to push it 8 ticks or so, but they could bottom tick and snap it up, kind of like what they did here. So we're rather careful here. So we need to see what ES and NQ are doing. So this is where Russell's kind of in this, well, it could take the reclaim, but it may not. What is ES and NQ going to do? So that's important context. All right, so we just barely go in the future here about like a few seconds. So this is basically what ES and NQ are doing a few seconds in the future. So you again, they're all fucking puking at the same time. So for those of you who think Russell doesn't move with these markets, I think at this point, or if you're skeptical, well, here you fucking go, folks. It's just time and time again, it syncs up with them, and it can be powerful because it's a fucking outlier, folks. If it's all moving the same, it gets stuck the same, all right? And if something's in a different stage of its auction process, and it's... Because, I mean, it's all auction market theory, whether it's Russell, IDQ, ES, or some other bullfucking shit like Tesla. It's all auction market theory, folks. So Russell goes through its own stage of auction, and there's just these times where everything syncs up. It's like the solar eclipse that's about to come. I can't wait to go watch that because it's actually going to go right through where I fucking live. And I'm going to stare at that motherfucker with no glasses and go blind. And then I'm going to fucking trade and become the first 7-figure trader who did it blind. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to fucking do that. That's stupid. I like seeing things. So anyways, everything aligns like the solar eclipse. When Russell's kind of in this edge of its auction process, and ES and NQ are doing the same thing. And they're all just kind of ready to go in the same direction. You get a really megalithic blowout, and those are great fucking trades. Obviously, there's a skill set in learning how to read all this shit and patch it to fucking together and shit. So, I mean, for some of you, it's probably going over your head, but you're seeing what it is, and that's why I have a million fucking case studies or narration episodes on my fucking coffee, so you can just see it in different formations and what have you. But anyways, ES is at this red line. Do you remember what this red line is? That's the bottom of that fucking 10-minute chart. Oh, you don't remember because you weren't paying attention? That's all right. I'll go ahead and fucking pull it up for you so you can fucking remember what the fuck it looks like. Right here, folks. This little chunky section right here is basically a zoomed in area that we're looking at. So you can see there's a bar here, and then it's testing here. So same thing, bar here, testing in that zone. Again, you're not really seeing micro auctions on that fucking 10-minute. So there you go. And again, it's been over this area for fucking 3 days roughly. So, and if we draw a bell curve here, you can see that it up at this point, this is where the bell curve ends. It's a B-shape profile. So if you know your P's and B's, you know that there's a good chance that it could blow out and put in another wing on the bottom side, which guess what? It fucking did. So this is like a major swing right here. So timing is really critical, especially if you trade size like me. So even though you're seeing it push on the 10-minute and it could potentially blow out, like timing is so critical. So we want to look at ES on the 30-second chart at that point in time. So we got to understand is I just can't get in. So this is that area again. There's that red line. There's a giant reclaim here. So much like what Russell could potentially do on the downside, ES could do on the upside. And quite frankly, I got to be kind of fucking careful. I can't just get in anywhere. If I'm like shorting here at this point in time, the market would go against me 36 ticks, and quite frankly, that's extremely expensive on 12 lots. That's $5,400, and that's quite a bit. And if I got blown out or stopped out for 20, 30 ticks, that's gonna fuck me because I don't pick up 20, 30 tick trades very often due to the nature of the current environment. Now, here's the thing. If the environment does shift back to a higher VIX, the correlations still work like this. So, yeah, it just moves are going to go further. So, coming back, ES is really hitting that place the 4th time, which is making the expected value or the swing on it better. I just don't have it labeled. It is a pressure point. And I'm willing to hold it further because it is a critical level on the 10-minute chart. So higher time frames, even though we scalp, and a lot of our trades are sub-minute trades for the most part, that higher time frame does matter. And those higher time frames for scalpers are critical because you're going to know if you're going to be able to hold a scalp or potentially turn it into an actual run at some point. NQ, on the other hand, NQ is a little different. NQ is kind of like doing this stair-step up bullshit, and NQ has a profile here. So NQ is, at this point, mean reverting back to center. Now, NQ does have a great potential stop run right here because it's been tested 4 fucking times. You wouldn't know that if you didn't fucking have a 30-second chart. And what's great about these tests is the market is pushing up more than 40 ticks before it retests. So that's a pretty good push. It's actually pushing up quite a bit. I would say the ballpark of 50, 60 tick. Maybe higher 100 tick push up right here before it starts to revisit right there. So every time it's pushing up and pulling back down. It's creating a battering ram effect, which I've talked about in a lot of videos. The more a support resistant area or whatever, any of my setups get tested by a bunch of pullbacks and slamming and rotating, and then it pulls back further and it's slamming into that area. The more it does that, the more likely it's going to break through at some point. So when it comes to getting into any setup, I love seeing the swings or the pullbacks. You can actually see that I've been labeling this PVA down here. There's a swing 7 on it. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. This video here, again, I'm not fixing this, what you're seeing right here. This video here talks more about that shit, so you should probably go watch it. All right, so again, InQ, it's a little far from this area, so yeah, and then it's kind of double testing this pivot here, so InQ's really not in the best of areas. Like, InQ's really not, okay, it's not that it's not the best of areas. InQ's just not really in an area where it's like, oh yeah, it could stop run like ES is. ES is definitely in a, hey, this could stop run area. Now, what InQ does have going for it is it does have a range up here, and I could draw a bell curve up there, and it does have a slip zone, which the slip reclaim video will explain exactly what that is. So what they're going to potentially do is run the slip here. A slip and a reclaim are pretty much the same thing. That one video explains that. And they're also retaking the V here. So they did V bounce right here and then come back in the range. And they did mid-pivot the range. And sometimes you'll see a mid-pivot of a range, which I talk about in a lot of videos. The mid-pivots could be a sign of a potential breakout. Because again, like I said near the beginning of the video, you're not going to see just this clean bullshit. It gets stuck on a certain side. And while I don't really want to trade a mid-pivot getting into a trade, I'll use it as an exit more times than an entry. However, that's just context for narrative. I like to keep track of things that I may not be trading where I think it could rotate for context. So just because you know the market could potentially rotate, pivot, or puke an area doesn't mean you should necessarily be trading that. You use that for context to hopefully get it to a more high probability scenario. Okay, so I'm going to gear up in this because it looks good. Russell, you could barely see right here, but it's pushing even further. It's not really bottom ticking. So while we've been kind of looking at other shit, Russell has been sustaining the push. So in my opinion, that giant reclaim down there is on in Russell. So at this point, we're going to attempt to get it to the fucking market. My shit is froze up. All right, so we do get into it, and then we have an issue where it's starting to hit this reclaim on ES. I was afraid of that potentially happening. The markets are rotating back up, so I'm down like $300 at this point. And this is the second to last trade you saw. It was a good loss. It was a valid attempt. However, we're going to attempt to re-gauge it. So they are hitting that reclaim back up. So it's like, okay, well, shit. Let's see what happens. We need more information before we attempt to re-engage. So at this point, you're going to see me re-engage here. Why am I re-gauging? Well, the market is starting to come back down. And then it should cut to another screen. Here's Russell. Now, this is very important at this juncture. Oh, fuck. There's Russell. So here's that line. I plotted that stop run zone. So it's like, can they bottom ticket or are they going to hit the reclaim? If they bottom ticket or V flush it, they're going to bring it all the way through. Trading edges, whether you're mean reverting or taking breakouts is it's not as easy as other YouTubers lead you to believe, especially when it's on the hard right edge. Okay. So what you could see here, if we zoom way in, what you see here is, well, they pivot and they're hitting the back end of it, and now it's starting to go back down. That's a huge piece of contextual information. It is rotating this pivot. It's almost flipping from support to resistance at this point. So just that pivot back in and the fact that they're coming back down, to me, is a sign that this move is definitely on. Just the littlest thing like that, that you're only going to see on a small time frame. You're not seeing that on a 3-minute chart. Now, you would see the bar break out on a 3-minute chart, and then you would see the you would see it push up, but you wouldn't see this cleaner rotation. And this is why these smaller time frames are so important, because they can put in a micro range here. And much like they micro ranged underneath the bulk of the profile here, and that was a sign it was going to puke. Let me unzoom. Again, micro ranging under the bulk of the profile, sign it's going to puke. Same thing could be happening here. Here's a, I think I scrolled down right here, but there, yeah, right there. There's a better view of that giant fucking reclaim at this point. So we're in it. ES looks like it could be potentially busting out. NQ's doing the same thing. You can't really see it, but it's starting to roll under that red line we had plotted, just like Russell is. So they're doing similar things, folks. So they're very much in sync at this point. Willing to find out. This trade really doesn't go against me. Yeah, it taps into me and shit. But it doesn't really start pushing on the back end. So now what we're doing is we're marking out this this micro range I showed you on the 30-second chart. We're marking out the bottom and the top of it. And I just want to watch how the price action is dancing on the DOM in that region. I want to see them push the 25-25s right here on the Russell DOM. Again, NQ left, ES middle, Russell right, ES left, NQ right, Russell bottom. So I want to see them press on that 25-25. And this is sort of the third probe. It's kind of compressing against that 25-25. So they're probing it for a third time on a very small time frame on a 30-second chart, which you guys wouldn't see on a 3-minute or higher chart. So the fact that they're probing it a third time and all the other contextual information I've shared with you is a sign that if they put the pressure on 25-25, they're going to stop running. So it does go against me a little bit. No big deal. It slams back in. A lot of order flow comes in. Now watch what happens when it slams in. Watch Russell. Russell slams in with it. So now watch. Did you see that huge slam in ES? Like, it looks like it glitches. But it goes from 92.25 to 90.75, or I'm sorry, 89.75 instantly. All right. And then Russell's going to go from 26.1, 26.3 to 25.4-ish instantly. Again, just so you guys see that you have these order flow. They all pop up at the same time too. And then watch Russell slam down with ES exactly at roughly the same time. So, I mean, I don't know what more fucking evidence you guys need that Russell is not connected to these fucking markets. I mean, fuck. I've been saying it for a long time at this point, and it's still happening. This is from today, by the way. I don't fucking cherry pick shit from months ago. I take the freshest shit and make videos on it, all right? So because I do that, you should like the fucking video, you animals. All right, because this is taking me an hour to explain this shit. All right, so here's that 10-minute chart. She's putting some pressure there. And now I'm narrating. Again, if you want to know what I'm saying in the coffee. What's good about those narrations is you get to hear, like, because this is after the fact, right? This is hindsight analysis, but you get to hear just kind of my thinking is a little different on the hard right edge than it is after the fact. So, but what we're saying here right now is what we've been saying in that footage. So Russell is indeed taking that fucking reclaim right there. I don't know if I show, yeah, I exited, it just went so quick. So I exited at 87.75s. Why would I exit there? Because that is the lowest pivot right here on the 10-minute, the 87.75. I'm not sure that they're going to sustain a run. I don't know if it's just going to keep puking because, to be fair, this is a 3-day range. It has an extreme amount of gravitational force in the middle. So there's a good chance it could snap back up. And if we look at the charts after that move, and remember we were shorting here, it in fact does snap in. How much further is it going to run? I really don't know, but it did snap in. And it snapped in and came back enough that this would be substantial if I was holding this trade. We would be getting pressed about 11 ticks or so, which that's a pretty big, that hurts a lot on a 12-lot trade. That's 1650. That's half my daily drawdown, a little more than half my daily drawdown. So even though it doesn't look like it's much, it's quite a bit. And then it comes in and doesn't go nearly as far. It goes to where my original scale was and comes back, and it would have pushed me even further. Again, ES loves to stop both sides out before it finally goes. So they really dicked around here. I have a buddy who got fucked trying to trade the breakout here because it's not that simple. That, in my opinion, just scalping the momentum, it's where I can just find consistency and just stay on top of the horse. As much as I would like to fucking Hail Mary the shit and just hold it through fucking rough waters and just know, I don't know, because when it's coming up like that, it's like, oh, it's a 3-day range. They could put it back through on the up end. And look, guys, it's a lot easier to predict the next few seconds than the next 10, 20, 1 hour, 2 hour minutes. Okay, so we're just looking at this pivot low. Since that is the furthest pivot, it hasn't been tested enough that I'm not sure if that will stop run. But the market happened to just puke real, like I'm plotting it on my DOM at this point, and then the market just like insta pukes, and I'm like, oh, and so I'm scrambling to get out of the fucking thing because it just pukes so fucking hard. And the reason I think it's puking is because Russell's in a different auction cycle than ES and NQ. Russell is puking this range. It's very evident it's no longer a bottom tick at this point, and it's pretty evident they're taking this reclaim back. And while it may not drag ES or NQ nearly as far, because sometimes when Russell pukes, it doesn't drag ES or NQ nearly as far. But it can still have an influence where it does drag them. How far it drags them, there's a connect-disconnect with that. You just have to have a feel for it. And once you really understand how Russell connects and disconnects with it, I mean, there can be times where ES and NQ are so stubborn, where they're not moving when Russell is hitting an area. And last week, Russell hit a 10-minute area where it had pivoted the top of this range for days and days and days and days. And then Russell just started puking and running and moonshotting. ES and NQ weren't having any of that. ES and NQ were stuck in a range. However, Russell kept puking. And if Russell just really gets super overextended, eventually ES and NQ will snap. And you'll see them pull up with it, which it did happen. And this was last week. It might be one of my narrations. Anyways, due to the nature of Russell in this specific example, being in its own auction, puking its own range. It's a big range that went on for quite some time. It's a beefy range. Typically, they're going to puke a measured move. So what you do is you can measure the body of this range, and then it'll puke about that many ticks. So the body of this range, let's go ahead and look at it. And of course, you know, Russell comes all the way back in. So we're going to be kind of conservative, and we're going to take this modified Fibonacci tool, and what we're going to do is measure here. So about 61 ticks on the low end is where we should be seeing it potentially puke. So right in this region, and lo and fucking behold, that's a measured move. So typically, if a range breaks, it'll go about the body length outward. I don't really do that on micro ranges, so be wary of that. More so these bigger things. And it does, and then it rolls back in. So I know I keep repeating myself. However, repetition is the mother of all skill, and in order to get good at anything, you need a shitload of repetition. This is why I repeat shit all the fucking time. People are like, oh, your videos are too long. You know, you can just say it in 5 minutes. Well, it ain't gonna go into your fucking head. Plus, what you guys also have to understand is you're only retaining 8 to 10% of what I'm fucking saying. So in order to really comprehend 100% of what I'm saying, you need to watch this 10 to 15 times to really let it come in. That's why on my coffees, I have so many case studies, because I know you guys are going to watch the same video 8 to 10 times. The same thing with trading courses. This is why trading courses are kind of not that good, in my opinion. You need to watch them 8 to 10 times, 10 to 15 times, I'm sorry, in order to really retain that shit. And most people can't even make it 70% through a course. Most people can't make it all the way through the material and finish it when they buy it. And that's not just trading course. That's any online course. So that's why I have my coffee, because I know you guys ain't going to watch the same fucking thing multiple times over. So when you're seeing the same scenario, but it's a new scenario, but it's the same scenario, and I constantly showing the same thing happening in different scenarios, it's being beaten to your head. And when I constantly repeat myself in these videos, hence why they're so long, it's beating it in your fucking head so you can absorb it. Same thing when I talk about my hypnosis shit and shifting your psychology. It's the same thing. You need repetition. So Russell is, because of the nature of this exact setup in Russell, it's influencing the blowout on ES and NQ. I believe that if Russell didn't do this and it was doing something else, ES and NQ would not be puking, and I wouldn't be taking advantage of that trade. So there's another puke on Russell. I'm out at this point. It's over puking. Also, I need to kind of like fix that loss. We can go ahead and look at the P&L at this point. So I need to fix, because we're down like $300 at this point. Obviously, we're having some troubles. We're only picking up like a tick or two in the first several trades. Then we finally get it, and I need to fix this loss. I'd go watch this video, because I'm bankrolling or I'm rolling my P&L, and that's managing your P&L is just as important as managing an actual trading position. So I'm going to be, depending on what happened in my P&L, I need to be more aggressive, because I do need to fix little losses like this. Because, I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions. A lot of traders tell you to, like, just hold these winners instead of, you know, scalping them, because it could pay for all your losses or what have you. I don't think that's this environment. It's not this environment. I know other traders personally who are getting whacked. They're just having too many trades come back. And in this video, I talk about why you need to learn to scalp in 2024, because that's what's working, because of the nature of how choppy the market is and how often it's fucking coming back. I could have sat here and attempted to hold this thing for 100 ticks, but ultimately it would have came back and blown me the fuck out. because that's what it does. These things are just not running as far as you think, and that's just how it is now. That's the reality of it, and this is a different landscape. So I think in this current environment, it is very important to be fixing what happened in your loss. Now you do want to be hitting bigger trades, and if I didn't take that loss, I would have maybe attempted to squeeze a little bit more for longer. But depending on how the P&L is forming, I need to adjust how aggressive I'm holding the trade or how aggressive I'm going to get out of the trade, how much I'm going to leave on versus how much I'm not. That's a whole nother skill set. But again, guys, this is just evidence and proof that why I use Russell, why I use such a small time frame, because I know a lot of you, I'm getting a lot of subs because of that Corbs interview. Why I use these small time frames, why Russell's so important, and you can see how Russell does influence this shit. And if you're just looking at ES and NQ, it's going to be really harder to gauge if that breakout is going to happen or not, because they just move too similarly that I want an outlier. And when I'm seeing ES and NQ sync up with Russell, especially these bigger setups like that 2-week support resistance line on ES, and then you have a giant reclaim on Russell. It's all the same shit, but it's different things, different setups, I would say, happening in different markets at the same time. So therefore it's supercharged, or therefore you have multiple factors of support. Guys, if you really like this, give me a super chat donation or just donate a couple of bucks on my coffee. You don't need to get the subscription service, or just like the video, because that's what keeps this channel going. It takes a lot of time and effort to make the video, edit the video, upload the video, and do the thumbnails. So I put in a lot of work doing this to help you guys. And I'm getting great messages from you guys who are doing way better in your trading. So I know this content is extraordinarily helpful for a lot of you guys. So give some love back. I would greatly appreciate that. And I will see you in the next one.